Okay, so hi, my name is Chuck. I'm a software engineer at Axios. You might know us by our product Get Kraken. And today I'm going to be creating a React app and creating an Express app and then combining them together with API calls. So let's go ahead and get that started. First things first, let's make a folder. Already done some of this. And then let's start with our React app. Our objective today is we're going to create just a very simple React app with a button that counts how many times you've clicked it. And then we're going to hook it up to an API so that we can count how many times everyone has clicked it instead of just that user. So the first thing we're going to do is make a React app. No, I'm about to. Oh, I should do that before I forget, though. Yeah, no worries, no worries. And then I think I can minimize my own video. Okay, so actually, let me zoom this the heck in. I discovered at my last talk that the video that gets recorded is only 720p, so it's kind of hard to tell what's happening. So what I was saying is we are going to make a React app that counts how many times you click a button, pretty simple. And then we're going to make an Express app that also counts how many times you click a button. And we're going to link them together so that we can count how many times everyone in the world or the people in this workshop have clicked this button collectively. So let's start with the React app. We'll npx create React app. If you were in Ali's talk, she walked you through installing create React app locally, so you wouldn't need this part. We'll call this client inside of our project folder. So we're going to actually have two separate npm projects going on. Don't ever apologize for asking questions. It was a valid point. I had almost forgotten. So we're just going to let this run. Shouldn't take too long. Hopefully, let me know if my audio stops working. Last talk, I was using my good microphone and the sound stopped. Oh no, my video stopped. Hold on. There we go. All right, we're back. For those of you just joining us, we're simply letting it create a React. We're letting it create a React app. We've just run create React app called client. We're going to have two folders at the top level of our project directory, one for the client, one for the server. Awesome. I'll bring this over here. So this will be, there we go. This is our React app as it stands. So what we're going to do is we're going to implement our button thing. So let's go here. We'll stop the dev server, open my text editor. Okie dokie. So now let's just whip up a quick little React app. Let's see if I can zoom this in. Let's whip up a quick little React app. We're just gonna work inside of app.js. We don't need this link anymore. We'll delete it. 7. Cool. So we're gonna grab a. We're gonna make a new component. We'll call this clickcounter.js. Yeah, from React. You always have to import React when you make a React file, and then we'll make this a class component. Click counter extends react.component. Just gonna run through this real quick. We'll in our constructor we got to set up some state. Clicks 0. We'll make a function called click this.set state clicks this.state.clicks plus 1. So when we call this method, it's going to increment the number of clicks we have, and then we'll go ahead and implement our render function. I'm kind of trying to fly through the React initial setup. Hopefully everyone here has some familiarity with React or watched Ali's talk. Yes, the code will be uploaded to Git, and I will post that GitHub link before the talk is over. All right, return. We'll grab some divs. We'll have h2. We'll call this clicks. This.state.clicks. And then we'll do a button. Type equals button. Always specify the type on buttons because they default to submit. So if you throw on a button in a form and you don't specify a type, then clicking the button will submit the form, which is usually not, well, it's not what I ever want, but yeah, of course. So my talks that I give, I like to take the philosophy of like, what did I have trouble figuring out on my own when I was trying to learn this stuff for the first time? It's like, this is the talks that I write are like everything I wish that someone had just shown me at the beginning just to get up to speed and know where to start. So now let's go ahead and export default click counter. All right, we've got a very simple React component. Oh, we got to wire up the button. Almost forgot. On click equals this.click. Cool. All right, so now we'll go into app. We'll import click counter from click. Okay, and we'll go ahead and throw in the click counter. Yeah, so that's the cool thing. That's actually React. So the idea behind React is you can think of your application split into components, and you can think of a component as, in some ways, a function that takes data as input and returns HTML as output. And so what you'll do is you'll write these components, and you render them a lot like an HTML element. And then when you update your application, you update state, you get an API call or something, React will take care of re-rendering your components and then updating the actual HTML on the page as it needs to. So yeah, that is what React. So all this, it's technically not HTML. It's technically JSX, which is kind of HTML-y, but a little bit different. But it's meant to look like writing HTML. Yeah, so we can actually demonstrate this. We've got our, in fact, let's do something to make this easy. ID equals click counter, just so we can find it in the developer tools. So now if we run our server, we should see. Nope, what did I screw up? That's not helpful. What is this? Unexpected token. Did I screw up something? I screwed up compiling. Here we go. There we go. Here we go. Null must call super constructor. Wow, we're picky today, aren't we? I've been working with hooks a lot lately. Here we go. Oh, that's a tiny button. Can you guys see the button? It's tiny. Point is, you can see I'm clicking the button, and it's incrementing this number. And we can actually see in our developer tools, the React app has put out an HTML, not a file. It's just we've put out some HTML, and then you can see as we click, it actually updates the HTML for us. Yeah, so cool. We have that. So now the goal that I want to accomplish is I want to wire it up to a backend so that we can count how many times it's been clicked by everyone. So Also, when I refresh the page, it goes away. Everything in this React application, all this code is running in the user's browser. So when the user refreshes the page, all of your state, all your variables, everything is blown away. So let's go ahead and write a backend. Actually, let's create a Git repo first. So what I'm doing right now is create React app sets up a Git repo for you. And I know that I just want the Git repo to be the client and the server. So I've just moved stuff. Did I screw up moving the gitignore file? Whoops. That's all right. We'll be all right. So the project structure we're working with right now is we have a client folder, and then we're going to make a server folder. And the server is where our backend is going to live. I'm going to close this window. Here we go. Cool. So let's go ahead and start on our server. This is going to be an Express project. So let's go ahead and initialize it. cd server npm init just sets up a new package. Just hit yes or hit enter a bunch of times. And then we'll go ahead and npm install Express. Cool. So let's get started on this. Yeah, absolutely. I will be. All right. So we'll grab index.js. So that npm init command I just did, it sets up the package.json, which happened for us when I used create React app on the client. The other thing is create React app uses yarn, which is an equivalent to npm. Doesn't really matter which one you use. Anyway, let's get back to it. Const express equals require express. This is how you import things in Node. You'll notice in our React code, we import things with the import statement. That is like the new way of importing things in JavaScript. But before JavaScript had a built-in import-export system, you had to, Node had to invent its own. So what Node invented is require. You can use import statements in Node, but you have to do a little bit of more configuration, and I don't want to do that right now. So that's why I'm using require statements. But you'll see both of these in the wild. They both work just fine. And just to show what I'm about to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull up their documentation, because what I'm doing so far is I'm basically just setting up their hello world. So if you were at my talk this morning at 1 o'clock in the morning, 12 hours ago, you will know that a website is entirely made up of requests and responses. When you type in a URL to your browser makes a request to a server, and the server responds with whatever, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, images, all that stuff. Request, response, request, response. So Express is a library for handling requests and responses. My earlier talk, the way the application worked was we were responding with pure HTML, just the whole thing. We were getting requests and responding with a complete website. But now we don't want to respond with HTML. We want React to handle writing the HTML for us. So we just need to respond with data. So this is going to be really simple. We're just going to go ahead and copy their hello world, which I think I have memorized at this point. What port does the create React app run on? 3000. All right, we'll put this on 3001. Let me finish typing and I'll go through the syntax that I'm typing right now. All right, if you were in Ali's talk or my talk previously, you'll know this already, but for those who weren't, in JavaScript, functions can be written in many different ways, but one of the ways is like this sort of argument arrow braces. And the important thing about JavaScript that might be hard to grok for people that are used to Java or C is that functions can be used just like any other value, like a number or a string or whatever. You can pass them into other functions. You can assign them to variables. In this case, app.get is telling Express, hey, listen for requests that are made to this path. All requests have a path. And slash is like the root path. So if you just go to a website without specifying, whatever in the browser bar, it just goes to slash. So we're telling Express, when you get a slash, run this function. And Express will pass two arguments into this function, a object representing the request that it got, and then an object representing the response that you'll send. So to send a response, we just say res.send. So let's get this started. In our server, we're going to run node index.js. Listening on localhost. Oh, I typoed. It should be 3001. Okay. So if I go to local 3001, I get hello world. I'll zoom that in so you can see it. Cool. So we've now got a client that works and we've got a server that works. Let's glue them together. So in my previous talk, I mentioned that the browser will make requests for you whenever you navigate the page. But in this case, we're going to have to make these requests ourselves in React. So let's go ahead and do that. Before we actually do that, though, I'm going to split my terminal down the middle. Cool. So now I'll have the server and the client running at the same time. So just to reiterate, our server runs on localhost 3001, which is what this call is. We're saying, hey, start the server on 3001. And then when it finishes starting the server, it calls this function. And then our client is on localhost 3000. So let's link them. For making requests on the client, we're going to use a package called Axios. You can make requests without a package. It's just fine. The APIs are called XML, HTTP request, and fetch. But for convenience, there's a library called Axios that I really like. So we're going to use it because I'm the boss and it's my talk. So let's grab it. Grab the install command. Although in this case on the client, like I said, create React app uses yarn. So we're going to install with yarn, which is just yarn add Axios. All right, so the way we use it is simply we call axios.get and then the name of the path. Again, in my previous talk, I mentioned there are different types of requests. The most common is called a GET request. So that's what we're going to start with. And Axios calls return promises. And the way you handle a promise is either with a .then or with an async function. And I'll go over both of those right now, actually. So we have our click counter. What we're going to do is instead of simply incrementing the number of clicks when you click it, we're going to send a message to our server that, hey, we got the clicks. We made a click, register this click, and then we're going to send back the number of clicks that the server has received. So first thing we need to do is write a method to retrieve click count. Oh, the other thing, quick syntax note, there's different ways to define a function in a class. This syntax is one of them. And then the other is sort of a more traditional style syntax. Both of them work fine. They just have different scoping rules. Don't worry about it. Okay, so we actually need this to be an async function, and I'll get to that in a second. Import Axios from Axios. So const clicks equals await axios.get. We said our server is running on localhost 3001/clicks. And then we'll just this dot set state clicks. Okay, and then on our click function, we'll also make this async. We're going to, instead of making a GET request, we're going to make a POST request. A POST is just another type of request. Usually POST means it's carrying some kind of data. Semantically, it's like the creation request. Doesn't really matter, but the word click is starting to lose meaning if you see the same word too many times. Anyway, so what I've decided is that our request to add a click, we're gonna, when we handle that request in the server, we're gonna just return the total number of clicks at the same time as the response. So we have two methods. We have retrieve click count, which will simply get the number of clicks. We're going to wire this up in a minute and save it. And then we're going to also have a method that registers a new click. And then the number of clicks will come back part of that call just for convenience. And we'll save it as well. So we have one more thing. React has these things called lifecycle hooks. And don't worry about it too much. But if you have like setup code that needs to like do stuff when your component first gets created, usually you do that on component did mount. We're just going to call retrieve click count. Okay, so let's wire up the server side of this. So we defined two routes that we're going to make. We're going to make one to get clicks, and we're going to make one to create a click or save the fact that somebody clicked. So let's do that. First of all, we'll store a variable called, and then we'll do something like, yes, there is. I'll go over that in just a second. Let's get it working first. But in general, there's an API called set timeout, and then you pass in a function to call and how often to call it, and then it'll just call it on a loop or set interval. Okay. res.send clicks. Pretty straightforward. When the app receives a request at /clicks, it'll run this function, and this function will simply send a response that is the number of clicks. So we can test this in our browser now. 3001/clicks. Oh, invalid status code 0. Haha, that's fun. You can't just send numbers, apparently. All right, we'll send an object. res.json. Does that work? Or do I actually have to send something more? Normally, I should send some JSON because I don't want to... most applications will be sending more than just numbers when they make requests. So I'll show you that. So objects in JavaScript are this notation. Name chunk. So someone asked in chat if we were looking for live information, would it be better to establish a WebSocket rather than making the client send an API call every few seconds? Yes, it'll be better in the sense that it'll be live, but API call polling works just fine. It's a pretty common technique, and especially in a context like this, there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, let me finish. Age 24. So an object in JavaScript is just a key value pair. It's just a name of some variables and their values just kind of bundled together. So if I wanted to, I could just console.log person1.name, and we'd expect this to log Chuck. And that's it. Objects are truly very straightforward. So just to get that out of the way, what we're going to say, take my word for a moment that most of the time when you're just dealing with data, you're going to end up just creating some objects and passing stuff around. So let's send back an object on our clicks route. We're going to we'll just do it in line. Const data equals clicks. And then we'll send back data. Let's see. So now we're sending back, we're sending back some text that looks a heck of a lot like the object we just defined over here. Like it looks very similar. It's got curly braces, and of course it's got a number instead of the word clicks. But then the key of the pair here is in quotes. We call this JavaScript object notation, or JSON. It's just a way of representing a JavaScript object as a string. And again, a JavaScript object is just a bundle of variables. In fact, when we're defining classes out here, this class just becomes like a bundle of variables, and some of those variables are functions, and other of them are like just objects or numbers or what have you. Anyway, what we're going to do is, actually, this should do it. So we have our GET request that just sends back how many clicks we got. So let's see if this worked. We've got our clicks route that works. So let's see if oh, did I stop this? I stopped this. Let's see if our React app can successfully make the request. Clicks 0. Cool. So just to validate that this is working, we expect to make the clicks call and get back 0. And then we expect to store that value here. So just to validate that it's working, I'm going to initialize it to -1. And then we should see it start at -1 and then go down to 0. Or up to 0, as it were. Nope, I screwed up. Network error. What happened? So network error. Cross-origin request blocked. The same origin policy. Cross-origin resource sharing. It's not dumb. It's an important security mechanism. But control. So requests have some metadata called headers, and one of the headers is called access control. There's a couple different cross-origin related headers, and they just define what website. It's one of the things they do is they define what websites are allowed to make requests to me. So let's implement some cores here. Npm Install Cores. Cool. Let's go. Oh, is my voice bad? Hello, can you guys hear me well? Okay. We still lagged. All right, I'll move on. The way we set up this package is reading this very long documentation, but fundamentally it's just this. So I'm just going to do that. So generally, when you're writing something like this, you would define the origin to be like the website that you're running it on, just to make sure that that this ensures that only your website can make requests to your API. But we're just going to set it to true, which in this particular package that we're using just allows any website to make a request. So in theory, that fixed it. Nope, didn't mean to do that again. There we go. Let's see. Objects are not valid as a React child. Awesome. That's actually expected. So let's figure out what that means. Let's debug this. Okay, so Axios, I lied to you guys a little. When I implied it would be simple, it would simply give us our data. But Axios actually has this whole response object with all sorts of information in it. We've got our data, which is what we returned from our server, and then we've got like information about the headers. We've got information about the request. We've got some status. Point being, we actually need to do something like this: response const clicks equals response.data.clicks. There we go. So now when we make this request, 0. Perfect. So that worked. It's a little hard to see because my internet is fast, but let's slow it down a little bit. If I refresh this page, oh, that was too slow. We'll try it a little faster. Dang it. Well, I don't want it to be that slow. I just want to demonstrate that it's working. Really? There we go. I don't know if you caught that, but this briefly said -1, and now it says 0 because that's what it came from the API. So we validated that our clicks route works. So now we need to register an additional click when you click it, because right now this ain't doing anything. In fact, it's breaking. So let's fix it. First of all, we know that response.data is the data that came back from the res.send. In this case, it's this. And we know that data is an object that contains a value called clicks. So that's what we're doing here. Let's go ahead and set up our post to /click to record the click. App.post says listen for a post request /click. I didn't name it plural because we're going to call this each time we get a single click. Res clicks equals clicks +1. Const data equal. Actually, I'm not going to redefine that. I'm just going to do it in line. Res.send clicks. The VS Code theme is called SMYCK. SMYCK. I really like it. It's the same as my terminal theme, so it's all consistent and pretty. All right, let's restart our backend. And in theory, we should get... Oh, I'm going to turn that off because that's annoying. Click 0. Look at that. Okay, all right. So let me just prove to you that it's working as we intended. What I've got here is the network tab in my developer tools, and this allows us to look at every single request that we make. So you can see that there's, I'll filter these. So XHR is the tag for requests we made ourselves. So first we made a request to /clicks. Oh, we made a GET request to /clicks when the component first load. You'll notice it actually cached, and the status is 304, which means unchanged. So it didn't actually make that request. It just hit the cache. So Then every time we clicked, it posted to /click. And if we click on this response, click on it, we can see the request was empty. There was no data associated with it. We just made a normal request. And then the response is JSON clicks 1. And then when we made the next request, the response was 2. And the next response was 3. Excuse me. So now when we reload the page, the number of clicks sticks around. So actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up to you guys. ngrok. Okay. I'm going to do some wiring. So ngrok is a proxy utility. So I need to ngrok both of them. That's a shame. I don't know if I can open this up to you guys. Well, I can demonstrate in different browsers that this works. So if I open a new incognito window, I can go to localhost 3000 and see that the click numbers sync. But of course, it doesn't actively sync over here. I have to reload the page, or when I click again, it'll update. But we don't want that. We want to at least provide a load button. And then I mentioned earlier, I was going to show you guys how to make requests on a timer. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a button called Okay. So now we should get a button that we can click that just loads the number of clicks we have. But that's no fun. We want to be able to do this on a timer. So let's go ahead and set that up. The function we're going to use is called setInterval, and we'll just do that right here. Window.setInterval. This.retrieve click count. And then the second argument is how often. We'll do it every 500 milliseconds. So now, if I click every, half a second, the other one will update. So, ideally, we would have a WebSocket. For local development, you can absolutely just keep making API calls to localhost. I was hoping to set up ngrok so I could get everyone in the workshop to be able to click the button, but that's okay. I can't. I would need to set up an ngrok for the client and an ngrok for the server, and apparently I'm not allowed to do that because I don't pay for ngrok, which is a shame. But anyway, back to what I was saying. You can see that even a 500 millisecond polling is still pretty responsive. You could even limit it to a second, and it still feels... Oh, let me refresh this. It still feels fine. It's not the end of the world. So whoever asked about... Dominic asked if you wanted to do a WebSocket or polling. A WebSocket would be real time. It'd be real snappy. You'd see it instantly. But making a request on a timer is probably good enough, especially for like a hackathon project where you won't have a lot of users concurrently. Okay, so yeah, you're welcome. We now have a React app that makes an API call and responds with data. There are a couple things that I could move on to do with our remaining time. I could save the clicks in a database, or I could set up, Create React App has like a proxy solution. So you can run, like when you run this in the real world, you're likely going to have your backend and your front end on the exact same domain. So you won't you won't run into, or you shouldn't run into cores issues if you do that. And then also you can, if your backend and your front end are running on the same domain, then you can make your requests to just like /click, and then the browser will infer the domain that you're on. So I can set that up, or I can do database stuff. Do you guys have any preference? Would you rather see us store the clicks in a database, or would you rather see us configure Create React App to do some proxying? Or actually, the other thing. So something we can do is React apps are, yeah, all right, let's just do a database. Configure, ooh, all right. We'll do both. So what I was talking about was, sorry, I'm really scatterbrained. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep after that talk last night. When we talked about fundamentally all websites are requests and responses, and the first request that gets made is for the HTML of the page that you visited. React apps are actually just bundles of HTML and JavaScript that are served statically. They're just files that get sent. What we can do is we can actually set up the Express server to return the React code for us. So that's one way to do it. So then you'd always be making requests to the Express server. The other way to get the experience we're desiring, which is running both of the projects on the same server, on the same domain, is Create React App has a proxy tool. So we're actually just going to do that because it's faster. So what Create React App will do is this view you're looking at over here. This is Create React App's local development server. It's running a web server for us. And so we're going to instruct it to listen for API calls and make those calls for us. Oh, it's that easy? Cool. Man, Create React App is so cool. So does that mean this will just work? Let's find out. Nope, that didn't work. Do I have to restart Create React App? Maybe. Hey, it worked. Awesome. So now as I click, these requests are being made to localhost 3000 instead of 3001. So Create React App is proxying a request for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up to the network. All right, my friends, if you could go ahead and go to this link and click my button for me, we should see this number increment in real time. Anyone? Invalid host header. Oh, no. What have I done? Invalid host header. I don't. Errors after configuring. .end.development. Sure. Host equals that. So here we go. Let's try that. Oh, no, I restarted the wrong thing. I'm sorry. Shoot. Nope, didn't mean to do that. There we go. And then let's restart the correct thing. Could not find open port at address not available. Oh. What? Okay, I'm just going to do that. Apologies for not knowing what I'm doing. Like I said, we don't actually use Create React App at work. We roll this stuff ourselves. All right, now this that it did it. It works. Okay. But people are clicking the app, which is exactly what I wanted. So this is a React client with a backend. There we go. We did it. And all it took was fiddling. Man, I spent the last 10 minutes fiddling with configuration files. I'm sorry about that. But that's okay. We're good. And, we might just have enough time to add a database. So I'm going to go ahead and, well, you know what? Feel free to keep clicking. We'll see how many of you guys manage to click by the end of the session. Actually, I'm going to need to stop the server in order to get to get this to work. So as soon as I hit Control-C, this is going to start failing. Yep. So I'm going to stop that as well. So that'll stop working. It might start throwing errors in your console if you keep the, like if you now look at your development console, you'll start seeing errors. So network error because I turned off the backend. So I'm going to close that real quick. So let's add a database. We're going to be using, I know Mongo is really popular, but just for the simplicity, we're going to use a self-contained database called SQLite. Normally, databases are like a separate application that's running, and then you will like make requests to the database and like interface with it over a network. But for simplicity, there's a database called SQLite that's literally just a file. So it'll just make a file for you. So we're going to do SQLite and then yada, yada. Cool. So we need to install these two packages. So we'll go ahead and do that now in the server, SQLite 3. Yep, you get some errors, which is what we expect because I turned off both servers. Awesome. All right, let's just go ahead and use it. Oh, they have real import statements. We're not going to do that. We're going to use our require statements. Yeah. And then what's the code? That database. There we go. All right, so let me talk you through. I sort of briefly hinted at async functions and promises and over here. This is an async function. This returns a promise. A promise is an empty box that will have a value in it eventually. So if you need to get the value out of the promise, you have to either await it inside of an async function, or in the case of this example, you can call .then on the promise and then register a callback function, and then it will call your function when the promise has a value in it and pass it in for you. We're going to do the former. All right. Const setup database equals an async function. So the reason this is a promise is that generally anything that involves reading to or writing from the disk, like saving or loading data, takes time. So when an operation takes a lot of time or you have to wait for something like input output, normally that gets represented as a promise or a callback function. So run. How do we want to do this? My SQL is a little rusty. Select or create table if not exists clicks so I'm deciding right now that instead of just storing like a single row, a single record that is like a number of clicks that we continually update, let's just store a new database record every time someone clicks, just because ends up being a really common pattern, even though it's probably over sort of thing. But for now, we're just going to do this. And then let's call our we're going to use this. It's going to be does anyone happen to know if there's something scheduled for 2 p.m. and mind that it? Cool. All right, so db.get select count ID. Oh, what I was asking is, does anyone mind if I go a little bit over time? Select count ID from clicks. That should do it. I think that'll do it. Let's find out. Nope, not that. Already ran that. We need that. There we go. VS Code screen is stuck. Did that clear it? This is what we had typed, by the way. I have a setup function that simply grabs the database and then creates a table. Everything is stuck. Is my face also stuck? What if I turn this stuff off? Is it unstuck now? I restarted the video. Awesome. All right, let me redo what I did. Oh no, what did I do? Okay, so what I did is, this is how you open a database with the SQLite package that we're using. I have a quick little function, an async function that grabs the database from the promise and then runs some SQL, create table if not exists, clicks, and then the table just has one column called ID, integer primary key. A quick little quirk about SQLite is if you define a column that's integer primary key, and then when you insert stuff into it, it doesn't, it'll increment that number for you. We don't have to keep track of it or anything like that. So we'll get to that in a sec. But first, the way we get the clicks is we simply count. We count them. The SQL count statement takes a column. It really doesn't matter what we had put here because we know that ID will exist, and it's our only column. So in theory, this will work. In practice, we're about to find out. Clicks, empty object. That's interesting. Why is it an object? I wonder if that's going to fix itself once we actually add clicks to the database. Let's find out. Oh, let's make this async. So the way we store a click is we're just going to do this. Can I do an empty SQL statement like that? Can I just create an empty row? Will that blow up in my face? Find out after the break. Just kidding. So let's see if our React app's going to be really unhappy, I think, because clicks is going to come back as a number on the clicks call. Yeah. So until we figure out what this is doing, we're just going to send back a number here. Give this another shot. Oh. Promise pending. This is my, remember how I said you have to await promises in order to get data out of them? Okay, so this is what, I forgot we're making this request every second. I'm going to slow that down so it doesn't overwhelm our logs. We'll go every 5 seconds. Okay, so the result of that count of that thing is count ID and the number, which is 0. So we're going to grab that. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around everywhere. But back here, this is the important thing. We're going to rename that field to just say clicks, so it's a little easier to deal with. So now we get back this clicks 0. And you'll note this happens to be in the shape that we're sending back to the client anyway. So let's just, let's just go ahead and send it. Get rid of this object. It's no longer necessary. Let's just send back clicks. Again, this clicks object that comes out of the database, since we said count ID as clicks, it's the exact same shape as our data object was before. So now we have our function that sends back the thing. Here we go. Clicks 0. That's good. And then let's copy paste this. All right, so what's going to happen is we're going to insert this row, and then we're going to return. And hopefully I can insert a blank row. I actually have no idea if this is going to work. Nope. Wait. This error originated by catch near. All right. Does anyone know SQL enough to know if I can insert an empty row? Huh. Cool. Let's give that a shot. See if that works. Hey, it's working. Alrighty, folks, we have our clicks working. So now I think my ngrok is still up. Cool. So if anyone has interest, I'll paste this link again. Let's new private window, open it in ngrok, make sure it's not broken again. Awesome, awesome. So let me repaste that in the chat. If I could have you click that link and do some clicking for me, that'd be excellent. And it refreshes every 5 seconds. So now you'll notice there's a little bit more of a delay. But the important thing, wow, someone clicked it a lot. The important thing is that we now have a data.db file. And if I go to SQLite Studio as a tool I use for SQLite exploring, let's open our database file. I appreciate it, Paul. Got to get those numbers up, you know what I mean? Data.db. Okie dokie. So now I think I just double click it. Here we go. So we have our clicks table. And for whatever reason, SQLite Studio is really... So you'll notice the shape of the table is literally one column called ID, because that's all we need. So we have a table, and it's just a bunch of empty rows that just have a number. Hey, we got to 1,000. Nice work, guys. So if I refresh this, it's probably well above 1,000. Oh, did we cap at 1,000? No. Okay. Apparently, SQLite Studio only shows me the first 1,000 rows. That makes sense. Point being, we have a database, and it's only 2:01 p.m. Yes. Okay. So now if I stop this code and I start it again, the clicks remain. So that's proof they're running in a database instead of just in memory. And yeah, we have a click counter with the database. Congratulations, everybody. We have integrated a React front end with a Node and SQLite backend. Does anyone have any questions? I know I've been sort of just flying through this, trying to get it done ASAP. But at least hopefully I'll publish the code right now, and then hopefully the concepts translate well. Yes, I absolutely will. Let me publish the code right now, actually. Go ahead and make a new repository. Sunhacks 2020 Web Dev 2. You are welcome, Ishan. Integrating a React client with an Express backend. Oh, actually, it's called adding a backend to a React app. Alrighty. And let's update our git ignore so it removes. I don't know what all this all just came from all this stuff came from create React app, but let's just go ahead and add anything.db should be ignored. And then let's take a look. Git status. All right, so it's got a bunch of client files, got a bunch of server. We only have a handful of server files. Git commit -m initial working click counter app and backend. This is, I can copy paste. Excellent. Excuse me. Here's the code, my friends. I'll grab the video when I'm done, but while we're still here, let me just go ahead and write up a quick little README at the root. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. Counts how many times a button has been clicked. Every click is registered in a database, and the client auto refreshes we'll make it every 5 seconds. That's fine. You're welcome, Pratik. Happy to be of assistance. Like I said, these are all talks that I wish I had been given when I first started with web development. Running. Server, sorry, almost done typing. All right, that should do it. I'm going to clean up our app.js real quickly. We'll leave that there. Okay, I think that'll do it. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for attending the workshop. I miraculously managed to stay relatively within our time budget, and we got a lot more done than I was expecting. I honestly wasn't sure if we would make it all the way to databases. So if you don't mind me asking, what company did you say you work for? I work for a company called Axios. Our product that we make is we make a couple things, but we're best known for Git Kraken, which is a Git client. So might as well show it off. Why not, right? Heck yeah. Oh, shoot. I can't show you guys this. I can't open Git Kraken. I have a staging version of Git Kraken that has secret features we haven't announced yet. Anyway, just promise me, or I promise you Git Kraken is cool. I'm wearing my Git Kraken shirt today. Yeah, so if anyone else has any questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. I'm going to log off and go take a nap. You are welcome. All right, I guess that's it, everybody.